Welcome to another special edition of G-Rated, this time talking about season 11 of one of my favorite shows, Letterkenny. I am here with Shawn. Shawn, how are you now?
Not so bad, and you?
Lindsey, how are you now?
Good, and you?
Oh, not so bad. I really love this show. This is one of my favorite comedies on television. It is just so intelligent and it's like very crass, but it's so funny. It's been going on for a long time. And
I know when you said season 11, I was like, dang,
I
really?
started watching this in high school.
yeah. Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
I started
I started
watching
watching the YouTube in high school.
Yeah, the YouTube when I worked for the Coyotes.
Yeah.
It's when I found them.
It's been a long time, and it started off, it's funny because it started off as like a sketch series like on YouTube that just turned into a TV show. But I know this is a tough question. What do you love most about this show?
Oh, for me, it's just how aggressively Canadian it is. Like, especially growing up close to Canada and around a lot of Canadians. Like I relate to a lot of it, despite not being from Canada. But it's just how aggressively like I understand it so well, and it's just like, and obviously just the dialogue, just all of the little things that they do, the how are you now and the figure it out and all of that stuff, pitter patter, like all those little things are just right up my alley.
The dialogue for sure is my favorite, but I feel like, okay, so I grew up in a semi-small town. If my small town was like this, I feel like I wouldn't have minded it that much. You know what I mean? Like, this is the small town that you're like, well, if mine was like that, then it would have been way more fun. Like, this makes small towns more entertaining, more fun than what I feel like a lot of them are.
It does, because it has like they have like their own kind of clique, sort of like you've got the Hicks, you've got the Skids, you've got the preacher guy, you've got the hockey players,
right?
But like they all regularly interact with each other in funny ways that like they do their own thing, but at the end of the day, they're all part of this small like hick town.
And it's an actual like community too, where it's like the big sister, little sister thing. Like, it's okay for me to poke fun at you, but when an outsider comes in and pokes fun at you, then all hell breaks loose. And we all got each other's backs at that point. I do think it's funny how most every season it ends in like some sort of brawl.
I love it.
And I will say, on a like more sentimental note, even though it's all jokes and giggles and a little bit of being crude here and there, deep down, they all actually do love each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, if any single one of them is having an issue, every single one of them is there to help. And I just think there's something sweet about that.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite moments in the past, was when Katie got cheated on by her new sweetie Dirks.
Yes.
And they all just like get out of the truck, like even the Skids and everybody.
Yes, exactly.
And it's weird how it kind of like has built on that over, they're only 6 episode seasons, but like it feels like it's been on for forever. But I am curious about your guys' thoughts on the new season, because like we said, the show has been around for a while, and for me it's always delightful when they have a new season, but it also kind of feels like they're starting to run in place a little bit. I'm curious what you guys thought.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Gerald. Like, we talked about this a little bit before we started recording. It just kind of feels like they're missing a long-term storyline right now.
Yes.
Like, they still have all the great jokes from every season from the beginning, and those are the things that we love and we come back for. But it would also be nice to be able to invest in a long-term storyline that can last over the course of 2, maybe 3 seasons.
Yeah. No, that was ultimately my thing with this, is I feel like you said, basically every season ends with some kind of brawl, but I feel like a lot of times it's for something bigger, and it's really like a part of the story, whether it's like someone getting cheated on or whatever. This one, it kind of just felt like, oh, the D-Gens are back, we got to go fight D-Gens.
Right.
And it wasn't really like integral. It didn't really feel like the end to the season, outside of the fact that it was just a brawl, and that's how the season's end.
Yeah, it was a very strange kind of somber end to the season at that too, because normally when you get the fight scene in slow-mo, it's like, this show does a great job with its soundtrack, by the way, because it's always like either in your face blasting techno or like something off the wall that's like really well chosen. And this one was kind of like a sad note to go out on. It was like they're having like Riley's birthday for his birthday week.
Yeah.
And then they've got like
leave
the
Riley
fight.
alone. Let him have a birthday week.
That was one of my favorites, was when she said only 13-year-old girls have a birthday week, Sally. But yeah, I was kind of thrown off by this season because it does feel like in the past, this is not a plot heavy show. It's not a plot driven show.
Not at all.
This show is at its best when it's just 4 or 5 people talking, like shooting the shit together. but there was always some like through line with their romance or their love life or with some storyline. And this one was like, hey, we've talked about Jive and Pete for a couple seasons. Let's bring him in and give him like a 2-episode arc, basically.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of Jive and Pete.
That's my other thing.
I'm ready.
I feel
I'm
like,
okay if he doesn't come back.
I feel like they've tried to expand it so it doesn't feel like they're running in place with like new characters, because they've got like the Jewish guy Goldstein. They've got Alexander, the guy who's got to bop it on the Uranus to be able to go to the bathroom. They've expanded things for like Marianne and Lucianne, I think. But those characters just kind of felt better in like minor roles to me. I don't know.
That was one thing I was gonna say with like Betty Ann, like that whole part where they just kind of brought them back and they had the 2 former Olympian hockey players there. It just kind of felt like we need something to fill a few minutes.
It did,
because it was really out of place, and they didn't really interact with any of the other characters, and then it ended.
So I wonder if that's because when this was just like a YouTube sketch type thing, it was more hockey centric.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was like, we can't get too far away from our roots. We do have to incorporate hockey in here in some capacity. Maybe it was like scratching and needing for some hockey content.
But I mean, you have that with the hockey players. Like they could, if you wanted it to be a part of the story, either integrate the women more into the story or just go with the guys that are actually in the story. It just felt very like I said, that they were trying to fill space.
Especially since they had to, I think, I'm guessing based on the way they keep referring back to the other, is it Betty Ann, the one that's not there anymore, the one that had like the mullet cut? They had to basically replace one of them.
Yeah.
So it just kind of felt forced. They did get a good Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle jokes.
Yes,
in there.
yes.
But other than that, like I do feel like this show is still at its best when it's like the Hicks sitting around talking shit, or especially if they're roasting somebody, because the part with the Swedish furniture guys that were setting up when they were roasting them, that
part was just so unnecessary too. They were just, the guys were trying to be so nice.
They were.
They were just being
jerks for no reason.
His line, Christ, I'm not sure the shirts get any tighter, but I bet the farm they fucking gave it a shot.
Honestly, I think one of my favorite things about this show is how fast, like, I have to watch this with subtitles sometimes, because I can't understand what Wayne is saying all the time.
Yeah,
I was like, why do you talk so fast?
I also love the moments where they just are like, we're doing a bit right now and we're doing this bit, like when they go, like they're just all like the hockey name player puns
for the menu.
Like, as someone who like grew up in a hockey city and loves hockey, like hearing all these names is just, like, that part is so cool. It's like I said, aggressively Canadian.
That's one of my favorite long-standing jokes, though, because they have one of those every single season, if not multiple times a season, where it's just, here's a thing, and we're just going to name names around that thing. And I think it's hilarious every single time. I don't know if that one will get old.
No, it won't. And that's what we kind of, I think that's why this season was a little bit less. It's still a great show, but it was a little bit lesser for me because there wasn't as much of that. Like when I think it was a couple seasons ago, they did one where it was naming farm animals, and they just went for like 5 minutes straight. And you're like, oh, this is what the episode is going to be, but it like works. That, and whenever they're roasted, even when they're roasting each other, like when Wayne gets the sunglasses.
Oh yeah.
They're sitting around like, oh, 80s night on the slopes, huh?
They wore terrible sunglasses.
They were, and as soon as I saw it, and you see the way that they all sit down and like look at him, you're like, yeah, they're about to go there, aren't they?
Terrible sunglasses.
This one might be tough, but your favorite episode or moment of the season, or just kind of sketch.
I mean, I did love Glenn in the gym with his Fitzbo. His Fitzbo. That whole thing was hilarious to me, because it was Dax, and what's the other guy's name?
Dax and Ronzi.
Yeah. Like those two are just, they're so funny to me.
They're hilarious,
and so I loved that.
We didn't get enough Daxie and Ronzi.
Yeah,
this
and then
season.
The whole chip flavor debate.
Yes.
That was
that
fantastic.
whole scene, like that whole part was good. And then when Bonnie McMurray comes in afterwards, it was just like, what the fuck is going on here? And it is really like, what the fuck is going on here? You guys are just crying over chips. Like, I thought that was hilarious.
But the reason why the chip thing is so fantastic is because, could you not see us all sitting right here arguing about chips?
100%.
Yeah.
We would do that in a heartbeat.
It's hilarious.
Right.
And just like the emotional attachment they had, just for them to ultimately not just ignore the like the rules were like no more than 2 flavors, and then at the end they were just like, fuck it, it's all dress.
Right. Like, I loved it because the premise to set it up was like weak. I didn't even really understand why they held that in the first place. But like dairy advocating for like the plain chips and everybody being like shocked that he was doing that. Like Dan being offended at Stewart talking shit about salt and vinegar. It was so funny.
Yeah, and it's like I need some air. I'm gonna take some air. And then getting up, and just like how they assign such emotional value to like the dill pickle chips. Like every time I'd get her, it was
right.
It was me and a bag of dill pickles.
At the end, they like all come together and they're like holding each other's legs and shit, and they're like friendship.
We're
like,
gonna be all right. We'll get through this.
Yes, I also feel like Gail is such an underrated character.
Gail's my favorite.
I don't know how anybody can keep a straight face when Gail is doing the bit.
I don't know how you play Gail.
I would laugh every time.
True.
Like
how would you play Gail?
That is unbelievable. Yeah,
she's just like standing there like gyrating the whole time.
And
just whenever she talks, like like the whole scene about them, which back to your point about like the small town vibes, like when they found out that the nude picture of her is released and everyone was just on like a warpath. And she was just like, I don't care. I sent it. And it's free advertising.
Yeah.
But it's every time it's free advertising. And it's just like, how do you do that?
I was laughing so loud my fiance had to come in from the other room like, what is wrong with you? When she was like, we'll play carpenter. Like, the only 2 rules. I get hammered and you nail me. And she's like, you need Jesus. She's like, best carpenter there ever was. I was losing my shit.
That shit was so good. That was so good.
Oh my God. Gail's on another level. Like, I wish I had a friend like Gail in real life. Like, I need a Gail in my life.
Yeah.
Like, you could never not be happy when you were around Gail.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
she's so
all
funny.
of a sudden she'll like get aggressive. Like when Derry tried the top knot on his head, she just goes, take your hair down, you fucking woman. Yeah.
Oh, well, that actually reminds me of another thing. They had the French woman that Derry is hot on, and and she just was like there for a scene basically, and that was not a part of the show at all.
Right. And last season, one of the big kickers was that like she was now dating Katie's ex, and they just like totally put that kind of. It's not even like a plot line, but they just put it on ice for a whole season.
Maybe they couldn't get one of them to come back.
Yeah.
Maybe. And I think that might be part of it is we're starting to see them try to bring in new characters because the main cast might be wanting to branch out and do other things after 11 seasons. But
did you know that they do like shows? They travel and do shows.
Do they really?
Yeah. So they came to Phoenix, I want to say like 2 months ago or something. They were downtown. They literally do like Letterkenny live.
Yeah.
And like some of the cast and crew will come to all these different shows and just do like a comedy bit, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
I want to see that at some point.
Gerald, don't even start.
Gerald,
don't even start.
Because there's that one segment where they do the dramatic inhale in the movies that they all hate.
Oh my God. It drives me bonkers. More so on social media than in movies. Like movies, whatever. But on social media, when like every single story is like, hey guys.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, and I'm just like, stop. Just breathe and then start recording.
Oh.
I know it's such a weird pet peeve, but it drives me bonkers.
Yeah, they're the best at some of the running jokes, and when they bring a call back in, it's like, I know that one. Like the dramatic intake that they did. Anytime they bring Noah and Anita Dick into it, the sexual puns.
They are funny.
There's another set of characters that I feel like are so slept on.
They are.
This is my wife, Anita Dick, once. Just the once after like every other sentence. Just like
it's hilarious. Lindsay, did you have a favorite moment or running joke for the season?
No, not really this season.
Yeah.
I feel like there were a couple really solid moments, but nothing that like stood out to me this time that I was like, that was it. Like that was hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I always love Rold. Rold cracks me up. Stewart. Like every time he comes into a scene, I know I'm just gonna like giggle a little bit.
Yeah,
you know
he brings so much energy, like in such a uniquely Rold way.
Yes,
it's very good.
The skids, those two are just fantastic. Like they work off of each other so well. I don't know how
the sexual tension that's always between them that is just like never actually explored is hilarious. It's There's as I think about the show, there's a bunch of scenes like when they thought they were trying to figure out who stole the money from the church.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like that was one of my, not necessarily one of my favorite things because it did drag on a little bit, but like the thunder sound effect is fantastic because if I got to live my life like with sound effects, I absolutely would do that. You know what I mean? Like who wouldn't?
Yeah, and going back again to your small town thing, it's just it's funny because when you're in like a community like that, everything is so important and everything is so like isolated or like insulated into the community. It's just I love how they capture that kind of that small town thing where everyone knows everybody.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
What about you?
Me? I mean, there were a couple of really good running jokes. I also love the fact that when they were talking about bangs, they were like, he was like, Wayne has bangs. Like that made me laugh out loud. But honestly, my favorite stuff is always when they're roasting each other.
Yeah.
Like when they're roasting the Swedish furniture guys or when they're roasting each other. Like when Katie was calling him soft, like all of that stuff is just money. Favorite running joke in Letterkenny. And this could be, there's so many of them, like pitter patter, to be fair, figured out.
Oh, that's tough.
That is tough because Ferda is funny. Ferda makes me laugh.
Yeah, I do like Ferda.
I've never used it in real life, I don't think, but I do like it.
I just like the moments where you get like 2 or 3 characters that just get on a roll about something. Like getting back to Dax and Ronzi.
Yeah.
Like whenever they get in their little back and forth, like we could play whatever. Like they'll start doing like hockey references that could also be sex references. I love when you get those 2 characters that are just like, the show is stopping right now, so we could do this bit. Like I love those moments.
Yeah, those are probably the best. Because every single set of characters has done it multiple times. And every single time you get some really good pieces of content out of it. And like jabs or insults or jokes that you are almost like, damn, I didn't even think of that one. That was a good one.
Yeah, like the one that always catches me off guard and I laugh at it every time is when they're like, they ask somebody, like, explain somebody, and they're just like, just kidding, I don't give a fuck.
Yes.
It gets me every time.
I love, like, obviously.
Because that's something Gerald wants to do in real life, but he's too nice to do it.
All of these things are things I want to do in real life, but I'm way too nice to do.
No, I that's one thing, because obviously he's like the main character and the guy who writes it, but Wayne is just so
Wayne's fantastic.
Good. Like, just how much he cares about the other people. Like, he cares about everybody to a fault almost, because that's how the whole D-Gen problem even started, is because he was like, you always help out a friend.
Right.
But it's just, he's also kind of a dick sometimes. And I love it.
When my favorite from like the earlier seasons, wish you weren't so fucking awkward, bud.
Yes.
All the time. I tell that to my dog now. He doesn't get it. But also, I got to give a shout out to you, because that...
I do that a lot, not in the context that they do it in the show, but I just, something happens.
Yeah. He has it down pat. Perfect. We've already kind of covered this, but before we give our final score, any criticisms, concerns with the show at this point?
No, yeah, I mean, it's like we said, it's starting to feel like it's running in place a little bit, and I just feel like that the final episode, the brawl, didn't have the impact that it has had in other seasons.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it's more of just like a temporary lull, and they can kind of bring it back a little bit. But that was definitely my one gripe with it.
Yeah, just some longer storylines that we can kind of attach to a little bit throughout, like the chaos of all the goofy jokes and whatnot.
I want to explore Wayne's relationship with his girlfriend more.
Yeah.
Which
I
I'm
feel
surprised
like
they haven't done anything.
Yeah,
really
because
with
her
that.
coming back into the fold was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And then it just like, okay, now they're just
right.
You don't really explore it at all.
I think instead of exploring the relationship, they've tried to make Rosie more of a regular in the cast.
Yeah.
But I would like to see more of that. And also, like, whatever happened to Marie Fred, because you could tell the last time we saw her when Wayne was helping her buy a truck, she was still attached, but nothing really ever came of that. And I feel like after, I don't know if you guys have seen Shoresy, but it's really good because it does a good job of like actually having through plot lines and balancing the humor with some actual storytelling.
See, maybe it's Shoresy's fault.
It might
putting all their eggs in Shoresy now.
It might be
in that basket.
I do know. I think they've already filmed all of season 12, so we probably won't have to wait till much longer past fall for the new season. But yeah, I would like to see it build a little bit. Final score out of 10.
As this season specifically, or the show as a whole?
Just this season specifically.
Okay.
It's tough because I have such high standards for Letterkenny.
I do too.
Because it's like a 9 overall.
I would say, if this was a single episode of TV, I would probably give it like an 8 or a 9.
Right.
In the context of Letterkenny, I'm more inclined to give it like a 6.5, 7.
Okay.
Just because I think it's the worst season of Letterkenny, which is not saying a whole lot because the seasons are so good.
Right.
But I think it is clearly at a lower level than the other seasons. So I'll I'll give it a 7 because I still very much enjoyed watching it.
Right. But I'm with you. Out of comparing it to itself, not great.
Yeah.
Comparing it to other shows, pretty great.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 7.5 out of 10. I think you're
Okay.
on the same page as a 7.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go 7.
Yeah,
For this season specifically.
If you haven't seen the show and are for some reason watching this Letterkenny review, you should definitely check it out. This season was not the best, but it's a very quick binge as well because there's only like 6 episodes a season and they're like 20 minutes long. But it is just some of the wittiest writing and interactions on television. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode of G Rated. You can follow Shawn at Shawn DePause. You can follow Lindsey at Lindsey Smith AZ, and you can follow me at Gerald Borgay. Until next time, keep it G Rated.